Welcome back to 52 Lockup. I am your Apple Teen Cat. I'm Ben Apple TV. 52 Lockup is a series I started to talk about one of my biggest passions, true crime. A new episode in every Cat Maniac Monday for 52 Mondays, 52 crimes. I know I'm still missing one. Trust me, I haven't forgotten. Just give me time. But again, hope you guys enjoy. Be sure to like, leave me some feedback, give me something, subscribe. And of course, as usual, viewer discretion is always advised. So today, we're going to be traveling back. Not to Cali, but yes, to Cali. Now that I think about it, I was clever. I was so clever ahead of myself. But anyway, we're traveling back to what the latest generation like to call the 1900s. 1992 to be specific. On September 5th, 1992, a passerby in Santa Clara County, California, they would find Laurie Houts dead in her car near a garbage dump about a mile or two from her office at Adobe Systems. So the rope used to kill her was still around her neck. Her footprints were even on the dashboard from her fighting for her life, right? She was 25 years old. So let's get started. Laurie Ann Houts was born on February 6, 1967 in Las Vegas, Nevada. She had an older sister named Susie and later on had a younger sister named Cindy. And this would be basically a house for the girls. Growing up, she was remembered to have a great sense of humor, being spunky. She loved her friends, she loved her family, and she had a natural gift with technology. I mean, we're talking about brown-eyed, bushy-tailed kind of girl during her teenage years. She was attending Gunderson High School in San Jose, California. And she was very well recognized to be an amazing student, right? So she played basketball, volleyball, softball. And she was known in basketball to hit 25 straight free throws. Even though she would only grow to be a little over 5 feet tall. That's impressive. I can't do it. I know what you're expecting, but I can't. Her gift for technology left her to be perceived as someone who's ahead of her time. She's really out there. Laurie lived and demonstrated by the belief of being the change you wish to see in the world. I can respect that. I can wholeheartedly respect that. Later in life, after graduating high school, she would actually move to the Silicon Valley. Now, if you didn't know about Silicon, you're like, what? Well, nowadays, we all know it as the hub for technology companies and, including Apple and Meta, Cisco, and all these other major companies, like Visa and Chevron. But she was an American computer engineer who worked for Adobe on Charleston Road in Santa Clara County. So a lot of the work she was doing was very profound. She was profound at what she did. She was amazing. She was intelligent. She had a boyfriend who's still unnamed at this time. And they had a beautiful, warm, loving relationship. And I say they had a special relationship because when her boyfriend ends up with his roommate, 28-year-old John Kevin Woodward, regardless of how happy they were, their situation would turn into a love triangle. Because John allegedly fell in love with Laurie. Yeah, he had no concerns about her relationship or how happy she was, had no respect for her or her relationship or his roommate / her boyfriend. John would grow jealous of their relationship, and instead of focusing on himself and finding someone else, he becomes fixated on Laurie. Apparently, John was openly jealous of Laurie, having developed an unrequited romantic attachment to his roommate, her boyfriend. I keep throwing it in there because you would think he would just make a fuck off. But his fixation, his selfish desire would not be reciprocated. And this is a story women presenting know a little too well. All right. I get it. And we all know this. Psychologists tell you this. Rejection hurts. But it should not destroy you. Rejection is part of life. It literally happens to everyone. Don't tell me about some dude who's like, oh yeah, he gets all the chicks, blah, 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 and they love him, blah, 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 blah. The grass always looks greener on the other side. What that guy does is probably move on to the next woman after someone has rejected him. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked. To a kind of, person that we think that this person is, whatever, imaginary Bob, whatever. But you get my point. Psychology perceives anger as a secondary emotion because usually there's always another emotion underneath it, which can include sadness, feeling hurt, or fear. Toxic masculinity demonstrates that the only acceptable emotions for men to feel are anger. Otherwise, all the other emotions are just meant for women, and doing anything women like is bad. Bad. Self-comprehension and being able to communicate like an adult is not only for women, but most importantly, satisfying for oneself, because one does not become trapped inside their head, right? So being trapped in your head is very unrewarding, right? Men are more comfortable expressing their anger because this is the emotion, like I said, that the toxic patriarchal system tells them, while teaching women simultaneously to blame themselves for the other actions that people consciously choose. They teach them to take responsibility and accountability for others. So you're not allowed to get angry because you're a girl. Well, I quote, "Both men and women have been poorly served by the gender socialization they have received," says psychologist Sandra Thomas in an article for the American Psychological Association. Now, Dr. Sandra Thomas also stated men have been encouraged to be more overt with their anger. If boys have a conflict on the playground, they act it out with their fists. Girls have been encouraged to keep their anger down. Dr. Weiss told Insider magazine, for instance, if a man is angry about their partner texting her friends late at night, this may be covering up the fear that she does not enjoy his company as much as theirs. Fury over their partner coming home late from work may be caused by jealousy and the fear of the partner being more successful. Dr. Weiss also stated, once you begin to recognize some of the deeper fears underlining your anger, you might consider the truly intimate act of talking with your wife/partner about some of your fears. Weiss said, this act of loving vulnerability may be very frightening to consider, but the rewards often far outweigh the risk. Learning to process your emotions are genderless. Just letting you know, that was my quote at the end. But John Kevin Woodward, he's demonstrating all the signs of an insecure man, and unfortunately, we all know one. If you don't know one, you are him. That's just the rules. Insecurities are natural to a certain degree, right? It's natural, right? Because you got to grow into your own self-worth. You got to develop your own confidence. And that is a process that is part of growing up and learning who you are as a person. It is part of the process in understanding yourself. The more you learn of yourself, the more whole or complete you become. It is not instantaneous. It is meant to be a journey. Only you can truly fix you at the end, right? You can seek help where you need it, whether it's therapy or something like that, right? But John Kevin Woodward here, he shows his insecurities and then he makes it other people's problems. Counselor Todd Bird discusses in Men's Journal magazine, the common male insecurities are that follows, that are relationship stability, job security, financial security, body image, emotional intimacy, physical setbacks, not meeting expectations, and exhibiting emotion. Ooh, this sounds all familiar. Let's take a look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs pyramid, right? That starts with the needs of every human, right? Every human's needs. Let's start from the bottom, right? The physiological needs, like food and clothing. Then safety, like job security. Then love and belonging needs, romantic platonic community, right? Then esteem, and then self-actualization. The physiological needs are often taken care of at the same time of the job security, right? But a toxic patriarchal system will add in needs of value that are not necessarily beneficial to the male, like replacing love with only viewing women or / partners as objects. Now, before anyone comments, listen to me. Can you have a relationship with an object? How satisfied can you be with an object in that relationship. Let's get silly about this. Coffee makers, right? Coffee maker is an object that is needed, right? You want to make your coffee because you have a love for coffee. But that only pushes you through the day, like caffeine-wise. It doesn't solve your heart, mind, and soul's needs. Let's get to sex, right? Men and women both have sex toys. They can use alone. They can use them alone, right? You use the object, but you don't have a relationship with the object. Humans require connection. Even when the attempt is to obtain it in an unhealthy or horrible way, we need connection. This installed program from a toxic patriarchal system stunts the male population, and on the other end, it'll stunt girls by invalidating them. Only the engineer, right, of this beautiful program, running the program, benefits from it, really. The males do not make it to their healthy level of self-esteem, and self-actualization is just miles away. John's another representation of it, right? Laurie is successful. Her life is going well in a male-dominated field on top of it. Before the boom of everything we know, again, at Silicon Valley. Oh my God, right? She's in a happy relationship. John's roommate, and they're just perfect for each other, right? John is lacking in his self-esteem and self-actualization. This does not excuse his behavior, but it does make you understand it. He was fully aware of his actions and his consequences, right? His jealousy rages on. And unfortunately, Laurie would be leaving work on September 5th, 1992 from Adobe. She would be strangled with a rope and killed. Laurie would put up a fight, but unfortunately, she would be murdered. After her body is found 2 miles away from her job, forensics and officers would swarm the area and do an incredible job of capturing evidence. I'll say why. Her being 2 miles away from work leaves the impression that she probably knew the assailant when she was attacked. Either he was in the car or he snuck in the back of the car, right? There also has to be a place for the assailant to go after he killed her, right? To go travel, right? To be unseen from the scene of the crime. Laurie, unfortunately, would be buried at the Holy Catholic Cemetery, 25 years old. Initially, the officers focused on the boyfriend, right? Because that's common. We've done this enough, right? But later, he would be taken off of the suspect list. John Kevin Woodward's fingerprints would be found on the outside of the car. This is what actually gets him arrested. But it wasn't enough to place him inside the car, right? Laurie's boyfriend would later question him with the police listening to John. He goes, did you kill her? And John, instead of answering the question or even lying and blatantly saying no, John would actually just go, what do the police know? Since he had no alibi for that night. Those are normal questions that people who are innocent ask, about criminal cases. Because I ask that all the time. The cops are obviously onto him. But the first trial, the jury was hung. And you know what that means, right? That's 12 angry men and women sat in a room and they couldn't decide, right? They try him again. But due to lack of evidence, the judge dismisses the case and tells him, if you come back again for a third time, bring new evidence. Which leads us to today. Laurie's murder would remain unsolved for 29 years. Her sisters would actually play basketball in her honor on her birthday. And at her high school, you'll find that in honor of past Gunderson graduate Laurie Houts, who excelled both as an athlete and student, we offer scholarships to graduating female seniors who have been involved in sports all 4 years and plan to get a degree within a STEM discipline. Candidates submit a written essay that describes how they demonstrated social inclusion within their team and or community. She made an impact in 25 years. She made a fucking impact. John, knowing that they are kind of focusing on him, after the case gets dismissed the second time, he's like, I should probably leave. Yeah. Peace. He just ditches. Completely just leaves. He goes over and moves to the Netherlands because he's working really hard at proving his innocence, right? He starts up his own business, Ready Tech, in 1998. He would later open up offices in California. As well. I mean, his business primarily operates around the Netherlands, but nevertheless, he goes on with his life. He starts a successful business, while her family, friends, and boyfriend mourn their loss. The case goes cold for over 20 years, right? But during the pandemic, detectives were like, yo, we got time. Let's re-examine some cases, right? So they're slowly going through from the original investigation to every little detail. They had time. There were items that were resubmitted to the Santa Clara County Crime Lab for analysis. Now, Laurie's Avenger would be the one thing she was actually naturally gifted for. Technology. More than 80 latent fingerprints were re-examined inside and outside of the car that matched John Woodward's fingerprints. 2021, Crime Lab and some detectives matched DNA found on the rope that was used to strangle Laurie, right? Using the latest in forensic science technology, and even linking new evidence, him, to the crime. For someone in tech, seems he didn't think about this much, right? It's not like, okay, fingerprinting existed, right? There was a little bit of DNA, they were still trying to put it together, but it's still 1992. The internet is already 1 year old. And he had to have been on the same BBS boards that I was, right? And he had to have known technology was going to go beyond our imaginations. I knew it. I had an idea, like, oh my God, we can accomplish so much. In fact, I was called a nerd for it. And for the ones who called me a nerd for laughing about my internet skills, y'all weren't even onto it, who's laughing now? But anyways, I'm steering away from the topic. But John was out there living his best life, 58 years old. Here's the best kicker. He comes back to New York City, right? He's coming back to JFK Airport from Amsterdam, either for personal business, whatever, right? He's walking. He's got his little airport. He got his bag. He's like, yeah, I'm feeling good. And then he hears, whoop, whoop. Like, they're like, book him. They completely get him as soon as he's stepping off the plane. After his arrest, the Dutch authorities and the U.S. Department of Justice then obtains a search warrant to seize all of his computer USB drives from his home, businesses, everything. They just go in and snatch it up. Netherlands is like, what? Him? He did what? Nah, y'all can have John. Like, it's cool. We don't want him no more. We're good. We'll do without him. If convicted, he faces life in prison, according to the DA's office. He's being held without bail in New York while he awaits extradition to California. Guess we're going back to Cali. 29 years. I mean, the sisters, it was ecstatic. According to the news articles, they were stating how excited that they were. They're like, oh my God, like, finally we're gonna fucking get this more. Like, like they're super excited about, like, yeah, like that kind of thing. But here's the thing. One of the sisters quoted that as excited as she was, she realized it's still not going to bring her sister back. It's not going to erase the last 29 years of losing her sister in something that is stupid. It's frustrating to me because, like, who knows what she could have actually introduced us to. I mean, the internet, all this stuff was just coming out. I remember the BBS board. I remember the dial-up. I remember using Juno Netscape. I remember when LimeWire, FrostWire, BurnWire, every wire that came out. I remember all these things. I remember switching from the floppy disk over, from whether it's 5.5, where you're talking about the 5 or the 3.5, and then you get the Sony MD. I remember all of these things. And to have someone who was like already ahead of the time, seeing all of these changes going, we can do so much. I mean, cell phones were only going to become cute relatively soonish around that time. I mean, at that time, I was going to be getting a pager later on, which I wasn't too keen on. I mean, we still had payphones in New York City. There was so much promise there. And he took that. Not just from her family, but from the entire world. And it drives me nuts. It's always someone who's like, has a smile that lights up a room. Like, leave those people alone. If you want to kill someone, why don't you go after another killer and let's see who wins? I just think you should be fair. I'm just saying, leave the rest of us out of the conversation and y'all deal with each other. It's insane to me. And it bothers me more also because she was living her best life. And she didn't want him. She was happy in her relationship. And that wasn't enough. It was, you will be mine. My best friend, at times, like if I wasn't dating anyone, if some dude's hitting on me, he's like, you should just say you have a boyfriend. I'd be like, no, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I say I have a boyfriend or I'm not interested. It doesn't matter. I could tell him I'm gay and it won't even matter. He'll just be like, yeah, but like, what does that got to do with me? And that's exactly what the issue is. Your partner or the person you're interested in is not an object. If you perceive them as an object, you're never truly going to be satisfied. I mean, really think about it. You spend more of your time trying to control the object. But the problem is, it's not an object. It has thoughts. It has feelings. It is sentient. Stop the nonsense. I mean, you threw away her life, ruined the lives of everyone that she touched and potentially could have touched, considering how intelligent and ahead of her time was. And now you done fucked your life up. 58 years old, you gonna get life? Bruh. It wasn't worth it. It's never worth it. It's never fucking worth it. Anyways, that's today's case. Hope you guys enjoyed. Whoop whoop! Oh, as a side note, do you guys like my new shirt? It says, I'm not shy. I just don't like you. That's my anti get away from me shirt.